Welcome, Tom Ahern. Ahern, sorry.
No, mate, either is fine. Yes, exactly.
And how are you?
Good. I'm really good. Yeah. Given the times, working from home, we're quarantined whether we like it or not, mate. So I'm happy.
Yeah, fantastic, dude. It's so great to see you, and it's thank you very much for coming on the show as well.
Love it, mate. I love talking with you. We always, from the moment we started working together to where our friendship has blossomed now, it's always been a deep and meaningful chat. I've always come away a little bit more knowledgeable and open-minded. So it's great, man.
Well, it's been a very much a reciprocal relationship in that sense, and I know the moment I met you, I knew you were a deeper thinker. So I was like, I'm going to hold on to this. I'm going to hold
Yeah.
on.
I'm not
Now,
going to let you
Tommy,
go.
I'll never let you go. I'll
That's
never,
right.
just like in the Titanic.
Yes.
Tommy, I got you on the show because we've both taken natural progression since we first met. And, I've moved very much into helping to, kind of hold the space for men who are wanting to find that balance in their lives since they've become fathers. And you've really progressed in leap and bounds into really like exploring the mind space. And you've come from a really interesting background. I'd love for you to tell the peeps at home exactly what that background has been.
Yeah, sure. Well, I suppose I wasn't, it wasn't like a fairy tale background. I wasn't always interested in the mind. I was really interested in wanting to become an AFL player. And then when I was about
And
21, and hey.
what team were you going to play for?
Oh, well, I was going to play for Hawthorn and, I was going to kick the winning goal on grand final day and, of course, just the way it would happen. No, but
Yeah.
I guess, transition into my love of psychology happened inadvertently. When I was around 2021, a lot of things changed in my life and my mental health started to decline. So I guess the long story short is that my research and the philosophy that I take into my counseling work grew from what I call me search, trying to figure myself out, understand myself, understand what was going on with my mind and why I was getting all of these incredibly intrusive, painful thoughts, and why it was making me think that I didn't want to be here anymore. Things that it was just a very long, arduous existential crisis that, yeah, probably went on for about 4 or 5 years. And that whole process was just a lot of overanalysis, a lot of reflection, a lot of writing, a lot of reading, and a lot of talking to people, try to figure it out. And, as is always the case, it was the best thing that ever happened to me. And I couldn't imagine my life without the crisis or the breakthrough.
Mm, mm. Amazing. And it's led you to where you are now, which is such a more well-equipped person when it comes to looking within and dealing introspectively with challenges that might come up. I'd love for you to just kind of briefly touch on how perhaps how you navigated certain challenges internally and how you've come to where you are at today.
Yeah, sure. Well, I think, I suppose, like, when you look at existential crises from a practical standpoint, what essentially happens is that um, who one is no longer serving that individual. So for whatever reason, and more often than not, what happens is either something traumatic um, or a goal that was very meaningful to us and really, represented who we were to a degree, becomes not as meaningful or is taken away. So for whatever reason, the carpet of identity is pulled from beneath our feet and we're left to kind of gather and pick the pieces up. And depending on the degree of trauma or the uncontrollable event, leads to a serious disembodiment of identity, and who we are becomes this very transient, thing, and it's very difficult for us to make sense of all that. So I think when you're talking about how to navigate an existential crisis, what we want to do is, and I did this the wrong way because I didn't know, I went right into reflection and inner engineering, and I went crazy for a long time. In fact, for a couple of months when I was living in Bali, I went through a state of psychosis when I was hearing voices and seeing things, and it wasn't fun. But what you want to do when you're moving through an existential crisis, or when you're trying to navigate change in your life, is you want to have one foot grounded in what you can control and what does make you feel like you do have a self and a sense of identity. And for a lot of people, that's crutch in the form of family and friends and people you love. And then you also want to have another foot that's grounded in self-exploration. A really easy way to do that is just to journal. So have a think about, who you are, why thoughts are coming up, and very quickly, as you freely associate on the page, patterns and things will begin to come up, and you can follow that, but you don't want to spend too much time in either side. And I often find that when I'm helping people move through these kind of situations is that they have both feet in either one side of everything is I need to control everything and therefore I'm not open to change at all, or it's everything is just change and chaos and I don't know who I am because there's nothing that's grounding me and keeping me in some kind of schema.
Look, this is unbelievably poignant for so many reasons, but the most clear reason I think I've had you on in this group is because so many dads and fathers in this group are dealing with such a reality shift and such a paradigm shift when it comes to being a bachelor or being in a relationship, but dealing with themselves being the center of their own universe. And then pop out this kid and all of a sudden you learn very quickly that you are not the center of your own universe. And I think your experience of what you've just been talking about can be a really, really interesting, an interesting tale that many dads listening to this could relate to.
Yeah, well, absolutely. I mean, I can't speak from experience with regard to fatherhood, but I can't imagine anything quite as significant, akin to like the death of a loved one than and in a good way, than moving through becoming a parent, because no longer are you not the center of your own universe. You're no longer the center of the one you love's universe as well. So there's this very different change of like, okay, how do I navigate this? And I think it's so important, especially when you're in counseling, helping other people, mental health. Mental health is something that, moves through every industry, I personally believe. It's so important to validate people's experience in that regard. Just recognizing that fatherhood, isn't easy. On the plus side of that, it's going to be one of the most meaningful things if you show up, which is brilliant. But no one ever said it was easy. And sometimes we need to just take a step back and go, whoa, this is really tough.
Without a doubt. And I think you also hit the nail on the head. Like nothing meaningful is easy, like being able to step through that discomfort and to be able to step into that new reality and the paradigm as a father that, in this group, we've all shared experiences of challenges that we've had to deal with, whether it's physical, emotional, mental, relationship-wise. And the reality is everything is affected when you bring a new living being that's a part of you into your everyday life. Your relationship, as you said, your relationship with your loved one, your partner changes, your relationship with yourself changes, and the dynamic between all three or more of you change as well. So I think it's such a meaningful journey to go on that you're talking about, and things like journaling has been such a pivotal and powerful process for me to go through. When I implement it in my morning ritual, it's just like such a powerful process.
Yeah, exactly. You have to give. I often say that you have to give the chaos um, uh, boundaries. So if you just sit, sometimes, it's really hard just to sit with our thoughts. It sounds simple, but thoughts can lead us to dark places, places that we've not been before, places that we've either consciously or subconsciously tried to avoid. But what journaling does is actually, it gives you the power to decide which thoughts to explore. And that's such an important factor that goes back to what I was saying before about having a foot in the orderly and then a foot in the self-exploratory. Because when you are journaling, it's like, okay, I probably don't feel like today's a good day to explore that area of the mind. And that's fine. A couple of weeks after, maybe, sure. But today I'm just going to explore this area. The pen gives you the power. The pen is mightier than the sword. It's a very trite thing to say, but it is true. It's very true. And I think we want to feel, life is a big paradox, and we always work in opposites. And we want to feel, when we're moving through change, that there are things we can control. From a practical standpoint, we want to always be able to go back to a happy place, or home is where the heart is, and things like that. And journaling is a way to add some discipline to the self-exploratory.
I also find that having the act, like you mentioned, the pen is mightier than the sword. Having the act of being able to write something down almost gives you that, I don't know if disconnection is the right word, but it's space in between yourself and your thoughts. And if need be, and I know I always have the option to rip the paper out of my journal and burn it if I need to. But the act of actually writing something out can be a really cathartic experience for me. Are there any other tools that you could recommend or explore when it comes to, dealing with this change in paradigm that so many fathers do deal with?
Yeah, absolutely. And just before as well, the leading researcher in the 80s, it was a bloke named James Pennebaker, and he really kind of brought the clinical research of journaling to the psychological world, to the psychological literature. And he always thought that because writing is slower, it actually gives us time to integrate the thought. But just writing on a computer is just as effective. So it's interesting. Anyway, this is another one. There are so many ways to gain awareness, to pull ourselves out of the jar so that we can have a look at the label. And, we talk about psychedelics in this day and age. We talk about journaling. We talk about meditation and all this sort of stuff. But the thing that's actually helped me the most is open, honest communication. And I found that to be really powerful within my own relationship. And I want to be clear, when I say open, honest communication, that isn't lovey-dovey. That is open, honest communication, because honesty is some of the hardest stuff to talk about. I'm struggling. I feel like we're not having enough sex. I feel like I'm no longer the center of your world. I feel like I don't or am not capable to be a dad. Like, that's hard shit. But by listening to the other person, and this is obviously why we have free speech, so that we can say whatever the emotion is telling us to say, in the hope that through an open, honest, meaningful conversation, we'll be able to order it and get it right. But you have to be able to, I suppose you have to be willing enough to be courageous enough to just say whatever you feel, and know that your partner is going to recognize where that's coming from. I'm not having a go at you. I'm not attacking me personally, but I'm just saying that I'm scared right now, or that I'm really happy, or that I'm really lost, or that I'm resentful. I mean, a relationship is where two people come together to grow together. They are complete within themselves, but it's better. It's a better ride when they're together. And I think a major portion of that is in conflict resolution and moving through changes as a relationship.
Yeah, beautiful. Like, really well said. And I think so many of us would identify with the vulnerabilities that you expressed at the beginning of that little portion. Is there any advice you could offer to us dads about, to those of us who have suppose an underlying fear of what their partner might, how their partner might react if they were going to go ahead and be completely open, honest, fluid, and uncensored.
Yeah, absolutely. I think practicing is really, really good. I think because telling the truth is so hard, I'm a very, I really use practicality in my counseling world, because it makes so much sense tangibly, and I think telling the truth is really hard. It's a skill like anything else, like writing a book, like playing guitar. And there is a difference between telling the truth, that comes from The Simpsons, and telling the truth. But what you want to do, I think, is practice it, because sometimes we don't actually really know what the truth is, I suppose that's where the difference between truth and honesty is. I'm being honest, telling you that this is what I feel. It's not the truth. It's just how I feel. And I'm being honest about that. So again, we come back to journaling. Writing it down gives us the words to express the, perhaps, unexpressible, inexpressible. I'm not sure, but that really helps. Both work. Yeah. I think also, you will be able to find someone that you feel like you can be honest with. And sometimes we just want a backboard to bounce off. And I think talking to a friend can be really good. Have you ever felt this before? This is why I think the work that you do is so incredible, because it gives dads the chance to be able to backboard off things that they're probably all going through. Yes, I'm feeling that too. Okay, well, how did you resolve that conflict? What did you say? We need to be able to practice so that when we take it into, because it's not necessarily that we don't trust our partners. That's another matter. What we want to do is say the right thing, and you have to practice that.
Yeah, it's interesting you say that. So one of the reasons I started this group, The Art of Healthy Dads, is because and the Hero program itself is because it's a common ground for people in the same situation, aiming to get towards a common goal. So
Yes.
we're in a way speaking the same language. And what I've felt is when people bring up challenges in this community, it's almost like we speak the same language when it comes to crystallizing a message that they may want to bring back to their loved ones. And
Yep.
I think that's what's been a real key here. It's being able to crystallize that message into a language that you can then communicate to someone who isn't necessarily on the exact same journey as you are, but you ultimately want to get to the common goal, which is, happiness within your relationship and within the family household.
Yeah. And it's so important to actually define what the goal is, because sometimes we'll say something, and we'll, to what end? We don't have enough sex. It's like, okay, well, how much sex is enough? Well, I don't know. Okay. So understanding what a healthy, happy, meaningful relationship looks like for you specifically is so important, because that's going to add so much more. What's the word I'm looking for here? It'll make those conversations much less arbitrary, because we all want to be able to manage conflict from a solution focused perspective. We don't just want to say, these are all the things that are shitty in my relationship. We want to be able to say, as mature adults, hopefully, this is where I think we could be better. And this is what my idea of better is. I get that, we have a child now. This is going to be really hard for us. What's really good for me is when we have 2 hours, together on a Sunday, where we go for our walks like we used to, and then we come home and we have sex. And, I just really love that. That always makes me feel really close to you. A lot of the psychological research suggests that couples need about 90 minutes at the very least to have open, honest dialogue. At the very least, that can't be centered around things that they're doing together, kids, dogs, bills, all that sort of stuff. We want to know who the other person is and how they're going in life and how they're seeing the world. And understanding what a happy relationship looks like for you is the most important thing, because it gives you like, as you said before, a common goal. It doesn't make the relationship, oh, well, that's us, we have a kid now. It's like, no, we're still fighting for something beyond ourselves.
I totally get that. And, like for you to say, I know what everybody back home may or may not be thinking right now when you say, you know, a couple needs to have 90 minutes together
Yeah.
without
Yes.
distraction for them to get towards some form of clarity. And people will be like, 90 minutes? Are you kidding? 90 seconds? More like it. But it goes to show what the importance of planning in a busy life may or may not, you know, may be, you know, sitting down and having a 5-minute tea at the end of the night, or a glass of wine, or whatever it might be that you guys choose to pursue together once the kids have gone to bed, can be a really, really powerful step in the right direction. And done enough times, it can place a really positive filter over your relationship. But I think what you're getting at, Tom, is if you can plan a date night where the kids have gone to bed and you've shelled out for a babysitter, or the grandparents can come and sit at the TV while the kids are asleep, being able to really plan out that date night can give you guys the freedom to be able to be a little bit more yourselves, you know, without having this identity of what you've stepped into as parents. And a lot of people say, oh, you know, I can't believe I'm that person that plans their entire life around, you know, my children. But the alternative to me is, without planning, you know, you're kind of always scrapping, you know, you're always kind of improvising. And I feel like there's a certain element of liberty that you can have within planning if you've delegated 90 minutes to be able to spend with each other every fortnight or whatever it might be. There's a certain freedom and creativity within that, because you know it's there, and you know that you get that kind of ability and freedom to be able to explore it together as well.
Yeah, for sure. And, you know, to your point, I think we're unfortunately still picking up the pieces off the back end of what romanticism did to our culture. You know, this idea that we should live happily ever after and there is a soulmate out there. And, you know, life's hard. Life's really, really hard. It's evolutionarily hard. You know, we've survived to the 21st century, survived. So we have this preset anxiety that just ripples through the way we live all the time. You know, that's not going anywhere. We are a species that survives. We aren't a species that lives happily ever after, you know? So we do need to plan, because anxiety says, hey, life is unpredictable. Planning says there's a lot of predictability in life. The more you plan, the more freedom you actually have, paradoxically. So you're absolutely right.
Yeah, I get it. I totally get it, because I've experienced it, and I've experienced both. I've experienced the frustrations of, you know, kind of sitting there like a spoiled little child going, we don't get to spend enough time together. but like, without planning it out, you don't have that freedom to be able to, and that knowledge to be able to explore it. So I think,
Yeah.
and to bridge that into, you know, taking care of yourself and the relationship within you and yourself, being able to take care of and nurture yourself through things like you know, introspective focus and journaling, as well as taking care of your health through you know, daily exercise and eating the you know, foods that are going to not just nourish your body, but your mental clarity. I think men, once they become fathers, they step into a paradigm that is self-sacrifice for the greater good of the family. And I think a lot of people are getting hip to the fact that that may be effective in the short term, but it's very much not such a great idea in the long term, because we fall apart if we don't take care of ourselves.
Yeah, and I think when we're talking about self-sacrifice, again, it's another one of those things that sounds so lovely, like, oh, we met and then it was happily ever after, and, you know, kiss the frog and it turned into a prince or whatever it is. But self-sacrifice is, I don't know, kind of dumb in my opinion, because I think that life is an individual's game. It's you are in this body, you know, it's your life. And your life is a, you know, culmination of the decisions that you have made. There must have been a reason why you decided to have a child with the partner that you did. So again, exploring yourself. Why is that? Well, you know, it's like, oh, she's so incredible. It's like, yeah, well, you show up for her. So she's actually making you a better person. That's brilliant. Stay on to that. When you're talking about, you know, taking on a major challenge like a child, I mean, I can sort of get it. I've got 2 dogs. It's not the same thing, but I get the element of looking after something else.
You gave birth to 2 dogs?
I gave birth to 2 dogs. Yeah. Not only have I changed my sex, I've actually given birth to different animals, mate. I've done well.
Oh,
It's the 21st century. No, but it's the idea that there's now more of a responsibility, I believe anyway, to look after myself even more. And that comes into planning. So it's, if I don't get my reading and my writing in every day, I don't feel myself. I don't feel like I'm as present with my partner. I don't feel like I'm as present with my dogs when we take them out walking, etc. And I think most men and women as well, I think this is a human thing, feel like this. You have to get to the best of your ability. And if it means waking up earlier, then I'm sorry, that's what it means. You know, you have to get the things in that fulfill you, that make you feel like you've earned your self-worth, and that stuff that excretes the confidence. And for a lot of people, that is going to the gym. For me, it's reading and writing. You know, whatever it is. For some people, it's probably drinking a fucking cocktail at 9 a.m. in the morning. You know, probably wouldn't recommend that, but whatever's fulfilling that makes you feel like you've earned the day, then you can show up in the relationship. And I think that is like pivotal.
I think you're spot on when it comes to, you know, trying to find what it is that kind of serves you and makes you more you, so you can give more to the relationship and every relationship around you. And waking up earlier, I find, in my mind, is the easiest way. And I wake up pretty early to begin with, you know, so to be able to wake up, let's call it half an hour earlier, to be able to get your exercise done for the day. You know, like when it comes to what is the most effective time of the day to do exercise based on, you know, peaks in hormone expression and blah, 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 who cares? You know,
Okay.
the best time of the day to be able to do something meaningful that will nourish yourself is the time that you're going to actually do it. Whether it's journaling, whether it's exercise, whether it's self-reflection, whether it's spending some time with your partner, whether it's all of those things, and you know that that's the combination that's going to be able to give to you and make you a more complete person, get up and do it. But what I've found is the later in the day that you leave it, the more excuses you can tend to build up to give you reasons to avoid it. So that's just in my personal experience of myself and also coaching dads.
Yeah, and I think the sad irony, obviously you and I are both coaches, is that the best time to exercise hormonally is towards late afternoon, or, you know, around the afternoon. So it's unfortunate when you're 5 a.m. pumping out burpees. But look, if that means that, you know, and if you, like you said, if you wake up half an hour earlier, fantastic. Set the timer for 10 minutes, do as many burpees as you can in 10 minutes. You will never have worked that hard.
Exactly.
That's a painful workout. And you get a shower in, you get your teeth done, and then you can be there when your partner's waking up or when your kids are getting ready for school. It's such a lovely feeling knowing that you have earned the day and you can give time to other people. It's a brilliant feeling.
Yeah, it's a beautiful feeling. It really is. Tommy, I know we're winding up on the end of the chat. I know you're a busy man and you've got time commitments.
We all are, my friend. We all are.
Aren't we just? Not that you're going anywhere anytime soon, but
that's right.
If there was one last thought that you wanted to leave our dads with, what would you say that would be?
I think it's really important to know how, that's my dog actually, he's probably telling me to wind up. I think it's really important in life to know what you want. Life is an outcome game. We lose ourselves existentially and through change when we don't know who we are anymore. And that's a very spiritual way, in my perspective, of just saying we don't know what motivates us anymore. We've lost our goal, you know, and that can happen. You think about first thing that comes to mind, you really want to be an AFL player, but then you have a child. I mean, it's going to be a lot harder for you to get to training, you know? So constantly spending time to go over your goals, your individual goals, your relationship goals. And if you don't have any goals, spend some time thinking about what kind of goals you would like to. It doesn't take us long. It's the way we are forward moving animals. We're always in an unbearable state, dreaming of a better world, and you have to define that world for yourself, because that's what's going to give you a sense of purpose. That every day I'm trying to move the needle closer to living that lifestyle, or being that person in this relationship, or having a son or a daughter that says please and thank you. Whatever it is, you have to have a goal that means something to you. It will give your life purpose. It'll pull you through the shitty times, and it will really save you from, I think, a lot of the chaos that comes with living in an abundant world.
I love that, mate. And it's such a powerful series of words to finish off, because you can break your life up into various different departments, and it doesn't need to be one overarching goal. It can be, compartmentalized when it comes to your daily life. And something to think about. They've been incredibly wise words. Thank you, Tommy.
Not at all, mate. I always love it. They're always great chats.
Right, this is just us simply pressing record. We do this all the time.
Exactly. In fact, you're just in the kitchen.
Tommy boy, I thank you from the bottom of my heart.
Mate, always a pleasure.
Much love.